my family is from this area. For people who don't know it, it's the Ironton, Ohio area. It's the southernmost part of Ohio along the river. And this is where I grew up. I grew up in the countryside of that area in those sacred hills. I've always been a part of the hills, or the hills are a part of me. It goes back to that old statement: you can take the boy out of the hills, but not the hills out of the boy, something like that. I've always loved that statement because they've always, no matter where I've lived, and I've lived several places, I've always had that in me. I've always remembered where I'm from. Really, what made a difference in my life is, most significantly, is my involvement, my training in the church, and that relationship with what you could call the divine or God in a general sense, but being very close to my grandparents and being very close to my mom and my dad. I think that's really where it all starts and where it all winds up, really. My grandfather was a Methodist preacher, and I would follow him around, wherever he would go. And then I would come back here for Sunday dinner, and I always loved coming here. And that was always just so, it's just something I always look forward to. I love it. And they lived here in the hollow, in among the hills, and that's the hills I identify with. When I say I'm from the hills, well, this is it. That relationship where I got involved in the church through my grandparents. Specifically, my grandfather was a Methodist preacher, like I said. My grandmother's very active in the faith. She and I would have these long talks, always about the love of God. Isn't that interesting? I always get misty-eyed when I talk about it, and it's always about God was always sweet. And I remember that. And that, I think, goes down into everything I am still as a leader in in Christian thought, or in the church, call it, in religion, but also a leader in the academy as a professor. To make a long story shorter, I was called into ministry when I was 17. I followed that through. I went to college at the local Southern campus, which is in Ironton. I did my university work in order to get to seminary. I went to seminary, pastored a church. Well, I started working in the church when I was in university. I was a youth director. Then it goes on to, when I'm in seminary, I become a student pastor. While in seminary, I run onto these great professors, one of which encouraged me to go to Edinburgh. I was dabbling a little bit in philosophy and that learning all the way through seminary. And then when I got out of seminary, it hit me that I needed to do some strong studies in philosophy, but I was feeling the second calling, and that was to teach. I tried to get a place at Oxford and Edinburgh. Edinburgh worked out, Oxford didn't. So I moved to Edinburgh and I completed my PhD there in philosophical theology. It all started back when I was actually serving a full-time appointment between my seminary and doing my PhD, that I started reading Plato. So it was philosophy as a religious experience of Plato. That was my focus. Socrates taught Plato. Plato writes of Socrates, and I fell in love with that. And I wanted to see how that philosophy, being the love of wisdom, how that is actually a transformational, albeit religious experience, at least for Plato.
Yeah.
And how that has been carried out through specifically Western philosophy. In the Eastern parts of thought, what we call Eastern philosophical thought, religion and philosophy are one and the same. It's really hard to distinguish them. The West's history, though, it's a little bit easier to distinguish them, but still there's that cross-referencing, where theologians are philosophers and some philosophers are theologians. It's just this wonderful sense. And that is what captivated me. That is the hook. Like, I just thought, wow, this is just like phenomenal
Yeah.
that I could actually do both together in philosophical theology. And I thought that's it. And then I found myself teaching in a university and not even teaching at a seminary at all. And so in so doing that, that opened me up even further in my ministry to be at the front line of people being transformed through knowledge, through wisdom, through just an understanding of life filled with wonder, that the divine, call it God, could actually work through that to transform lives is phenomenal to me. And I just still am basking in that, in the beauty of that. That's what sets me alight and on fire. And I love every single minute of it. So I don't know. It was just such a love. Maybe my grandmother, whom I called Moss, she would always make me feel very special, like I was really loved. I mean, that you can't get away from telling a little boy, that he was loved before he was born, right? And I don't mean to choke up on that, but so many kids grow up without that today. I mean, so many. And then maybe it is that we place that loving care upon the face of God, and then somehow God is seen to be the love or the power behind what our grandparents are doing. Then that became even more lovely. Not only was the concept of God fascinating, like you can walk with God, like the Native Americans would always call it the creator, or Wagantanka, or whatever, from the Lakota. But the big holy, the big mystery. I mean, that's a beautiful term, but that big mystery loves you. How about that? When the big holy is calling you. The calling is at once general, but it's also particular. The general sense of calling is the hunger in a person's heart for the divine, for God, that you want to serve God and the world through love, compassion, a sense of helping them to find the lives that they need to lead with peace, with knowledge, with a sense of greatness. And that calling comes upon the life, and it demands everything within you, but it will give you everything that your heart desires. What if you could have not just simply a job, but a vocation, of which you knew that the more you gave, the more it would give to you, but you will never, ever get wealthy by it, but it will give you all that money could never, ever give you. Sense of satisfaction, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of rightness, a sense of goodness, a sense of courage, a sense of doing something that transforms and makes a difference in the world and the way that it functions, And as you and I have talked about, like that sense of the calling where you would give it all away to have that which was beyond gold for your heart, that you knew each and every day your life was making a difference for good. And people will say, well, what difference do you want to make? Well, it's goodness, truth, beauty, and encouragement. You can call it giving people hope, giving people a sense of wonder and beauty about their lives, giving them courage, breaking the bonds of things which draw them down and drag them down and make them feel so unworthy, and put them back into a shape that they can believe in themselves once again, and that the very God that created them loves them and wants everything good for them. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that calling? Now, my own particular calling has to do with teaching. That comes about by maybe that fascination that I've always had with God, a sense of just always loving to ask questions of everything, and thinking to myself, what if learning and seeking wisdom and knowledge could actually transform a life and bring it into truth, and that truth would set you free? You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And then the fascination of the very being of God involved within that, and to have a part of that. So the first calling was to do the general ministry thing. Sat out in the church, be a part of Christianity, be an ordained minister, did that. But then that more refined calling, now comes time to go off into the hinterlands outside of the walls of the building and serve through education, through knowledge. Thus, you see then that doing a PhD isn't about what you know. It's not about a great idea, because you're not there yet, and you're not going to write on your greatest idea that you're ever going to have in your life. Plus, you need a bit of living before you have all these great ideas. But what will give you that PhD is a tenacity. And that means that just that holding on, never letting go, and knowing that if you just hold on and never let go, you can pull it through and you can make a difference in this world. But that's what keeps me going, man. That's it. That's it, to be used by God to transform the world. I started teaching, and when I started teaching, I started seeing that people liked what we talked about. They liked the subject. I teach philosophy and religion, of course, but they responded. It seems to be they responded more than what I've gotten people to respond in the church. But somehow that came about, that started making a difference. And I kept on thinking I would love to publish. First, I thought about books, and I've always loved art, and I thought, well, maybe I could do some art. And I keep on thinking around different things. But there was always this thing, I want to reach out to the world. I want to take what's in this classroom and put it out for the world to be with us. Because there's some beautiful moments that can happen in a classroom. You're thinking, man, that was a magical moment. I wish others could see it. And that became maybe the impetus that I thought, if I could put this online. It kept on lingering with me. And this has been several years ago. It kept on coming up, So when I left the one church at Greenup that I was pastoring and teaching to, someone said to me, I imagine you to be this motivational speaker that could talk to many people, right, outside the church. And I don't know whether she mentioned online or not, but she was talking about being a motivational speaker. And I knew what that meant because I'd seen motivational speakers, right? And so I thought, yeah, maybe. And so that was several years ago, and maybe that kept on lingering, but there was had a particular happening in life that just pushed that maybe to the front burner, which reminded me of all that I was not doing. I think for a number of years, I lived with a sense of like trying to do other things than point it to what I could actually do more. And it became stale. It was just kind of staling. And then I had to make a couple of quick decisions, or some things were confronting me in my life. I thought, gotta get out of here, man. God didn't call you to stale up like weeks old bread in a package. You gotta be out there, not stale, all hung up in some plastic bag, but out there growing like fire, rather than an old stale loaf of bread in some plastic sitting over there molding. Get out there like a fire, start burning with it, take it out. Socrates was always in the marketplace, so was Jesus, right? Get outside the temple, go outside the walls, making it a difference in not only just a particular place, waiting for the world to come to you, which it's never going to happen. So go to the world, right? Go. it's not that the fields are going to get harvested if we just sit back in the barn. We got to go out and get the harvest, we got to go out to the people. We got to meet where they are. You can't expect, it's not like the old line, build it and they'll come. There's nobody going to show up. You got to go out there and say, I've got a message. I know that people use the internet for so many different things, but you can use it for so much good. I mean, people, it's coming right into the very homes and lives. People are carrying around the internet in their back pocket. And I mean, what better place to get a message out there that, I mean, it's just brilliant to me. And I'm thinking, such a day as this, that line, yes. You were born for such a day as this. Think about that. Yeah. And that it all comes together like almost like a purpose, almost like an orchestration. And then you can do a significant work and help others to do the work they do. And it's back and forth in a correspondence and a cooperation, that you're part of something great. And that's beautiful to me. Always need these jump starts, right? And I think everybody does, but I particularly need them. I always need a charge. I need something, because Deron what he'll do is he'll still be working okay, but he'll just kind of go through the days of a calendar, it's all right. It's not like you're dead in the water, but you're just asleep. It's time to wake up. And here's the awakening. You've got so many people that will look at the brightness of a day with a shrug shoulders approach. You ask them, what are you doing with your life? I don't know. What would you like to do? I don't know. You ask them what they want to eat. I don't know. See, it's just like, I don't know. What are you doing for the rest of your life? I don't know. See, I don't know. It's just shrugged shoulders. And I hate that. I do not want to live like that. And so if I could give anybody anything, it was a sense of wonder with the world, a sense of interest in life, that there's so much beauty, there's so much out there. And I know it's a hard task. I know it's going to take some time. I know that you're going to have to, maybe through some tears, find out what you can do with your life to make an impact for good in this world, and to make every day shine and sing, just like it was when you were a child. You remember every day you woke up as a child. And I'm not talking about maybe in school, you might have liked school, but sometimes even school can kind of take away the fire. But this child, just imagine you as a child waking up on a summer morning. The whole world is there. And just think of running, playing, discovering things. And think of how tired you used to be, but you never wanted to go to sleep. Think about when the night comes and you would play long into the night, even to when the lightning bugs, as we say around here, would come out, and you still wanted to do just a little bit more, right? That's the way that life should be. Now, how we get there, I'm still trying to figure out. But that's the life that I believe that we are created to have and to lead. It's a life of discovery, but it's a life wherein I have a great calling. I have a great impact in this world, filled with everything good, true, and beautiful. And I can give that to others who along life's way have become bored. It's like if you were a little child playing and you see another child just sitting there and their head is down. It's like you walk over to them and say, come on, let's take a bike ride. Come on, let's play a game. Let's play in the creek. Come on, let's run in the hills a little bit, Come on, let's go find a bird's nest and see if the babies have hatched. Anything. Come on, let's discover what that butterfly is, or what that star is, or something. It's like the wonder of a child. And if you can always take that wonder of a child You don't have to be childish, but the wonder of the child, right? Never, ever let that go. It's like Picasso said, it's not to become an artist, it's to remain an artist throughout your life. That's your job. It's not to become childlike, it's to retain it. See it? To retain it. It's not to get wonder, it's to hold on to it. That's the mission. That's what I'm all about. Carpe diem. It's like seize the day. Like there's that coin I carry in my pocket that a former student gave to me. It has, it says you could die at this very moment. And on the flip side of it, it shows a skull and it shows this hourglass that is running low. And it shows a flower that had fallen over on a vase, which are what they call the veritas paintings. Veritas, of course, means truth. And what they would do is they would paint in like a skull or a skeletal figure or an hourglass or even a bubble or a wilting flower, anything to denote passing away. And they would, or it's made to shock you. It's made to like, you've only got this limited time. It's all about the dash. And it's not about following equal lives, because how fun would that be? You know, if I knew what you knew, and I mean, what are we going to talk about? You know, but it's like every child does this when they trust you, is that they always want to show you something that they found. They'll always bring to you some stone, anything. You know, they'll like hold it up to you. So that, isn't that beautiful in life? Isn't it? Like, let me show you what I found out. Isn't this interesting? I mean, a child doesn't pay attention to how much money you have when it first begins. It doesn't, when it's first talking to you and when we're first growing up, we don't ask how much money. We don't even think about it. I mean, we like toys and things like that, but how often do the toys get broken and we go right back to playing with, throwing, playing with the stones in the creek, or, running the hills, or riding an old bike, or just simply running with something like throwing sticks. The joys of life, really, that make life what it is, are free, aren't they? Yeah. It's the stars, it's the flowers, it's the sunshine. That's what we'll miss at the end of the day. On our dying days, I know it's going to be difficult, but on your dying day, you think, man, I just want to go at this again, just one more day. I mean, you don't have it, but I mean, it's not like you're going to pass away like regretting, but you're going to think, man, that was good. Yeah. See, what was good was not like, tell me again how much money I have in that bank account. Let me hear that. Yeah, that's good. No, you're never going to say that. Or talk to me about that car out there that I got. Tell me one more time, what is it still shining? I hope it is. I mean, you're not going to be saying that, are you? You got to say, just look at the stars, look at the flower. It's this thing about life. And what I found, I just came to the realization, this is going to get old really quickly. I'm stalling. I'm staling. To be honest with you, I teach, there's not any more material on Plato. I mean, you could, when I'm teaching, say, just use him for example, there's only a limited amount of work he's got. But do we want to just keep on teaching on this all the time? It's like Emerson said, go out and write your own book. What are you doing? Emerson's a great line from the American Scholar. He was talking to Harvard at that time, and he's talking to all these students of Harvard, and he said, why do you spend your time in those libraries just growing old like bookworms? Go out. He said, do you not know that those were young men when they wrote those books? These people, these very same people that you're reading, do you not know that they were alive and they were looking at the sunshine and they were writing? They were filled with life. So it's basically, he's asking underhandedly, where's your book at? I want to write my book. I want to create my work of art. I want to get it out there so that somewhere along life's way, somebody might be stumbling. I think that might be a line from Longfellow. a psalm of life. He said that as you're walking along this path of life, that someone might be following your footsteps, and they might at that time be haggard, in their day that they're living, they're so burdened down, but they will see your footsteps, and it will give them hope to journey on, that they're walking their own path, they're making a difference too. Maybe that's what it is, that you can make a difference, that the life is precious, life is beautiful. Maybe that's what I learned sitting around the table with my grandmother, that life is beautiful. I mean, that's what it is. I don't know. But, I know that heartaches come. I know that these things happen. But isn't the day precious, man? Isn't that just a beautiful thought? This day, I read, I think it was in Oyesa when he writes Soul of an Indian, the Lakota, I think he was raised Lakota, of course, they would look at the sun, they would embrace the sun and say, today. And there's an old line, everything is sacred. It's just beautiful. There it is. Yeah.
Awesome.
Enough said about that.